Ariel Helwani leaked 4 UFC 300 main event options during an episode earlier today of the MMA Hour. I'm going to go through this segment of the show and react to the potential main events that I guess he has heard through inside sources are in the works or at least set forth as potential matchups. We call them a leak. We can call them a tease. Nonetheless, Helwani's got some info. Helwani's got some sources, and I want to find out if he's on to something here. So we're going to get into the video. Make sure you guys smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. Let's listen to Helwani for a second.
Slated schedule, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people are holding out hope for Conor McGregor. And again, I need to preface this because this is all on their, this is all on their time.
Well, he's just getting into that Conor McGregor's not going to be on the card, which is something that I think most fans already knew. That was a pipe dream to get Conor on 300. He's probably coming back in June, though.
On a whim, they could change everything. But as of right this second, 1:20 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, February 12th, 2024, he's not a part of those plans.
He's not going to be a part of those plans. He'll be coming in June as a return. I know Dana White mentioned fall. I don't know if that was a Dana White negotiation tactic. But I think Conor, International Fight Week 2024 versus Michael Chandler on a pretty sick card makes a ton of sense, and that will be the return. Would 300 have been better? Absolutely. But it's not what's happening. It's just not.
I still believe that he'll be a part of June 29th.
Yeah, we'll fast forward Helwani a bit here as he gets to talking about some of the matchups.
3 of them are, well, I would say 2.5 of them are pretty understandable, expected, whatever. And then
Helwani really takes his time as he goes through and talks, man. He's giving me hella pauses to work with here. Holy.
There's one that I think people will be like, okay, so let's see. And I don't know what's going to happen, and it's all very fluid. And I think you'll understand why Dana is saying what he is saying regarding the discussed. But it seems like they really don't want that fight. They really don't want that fight at 300 for what.
So what he's talking about here is this Leon Belal thing, which they don't want at 300. Nobody wants that fight at 300. If it's a co-main event to a sick main event, I think fans will accept it. But Belal Muhammad is just not a needle mover by any means as far as all fight fans go. Does he deserve the shot on paper? Absolutely. But in all actuality, you need to move some needles sometimes to get this main event slot, especially on a damn pay-per-view for 300.
Whatever reason. I think that's like their last resort. Obviously, Leon said what he said half ago at this point. They would have announced. For Leon, a title defense, 7 or so weeks, it's not ideal. And I know he's always in shape, but that one is one that's necessarily pulling the trigger on it. It'll be interesting to find out why. Izzy DDP is something that is...
The Izzy DDP fight is something that I've said should be the UFC 300 main event, or at least sensible as the 300 main event on paper. I think it's a good fight. I still want to see it, even though Sean Strickland destroyed Izzy for 5 rounds. I don't think that the DDP versus Izzy fight would look like that Strickland matchup. I think we'd have a real competitive affair. Adesanya, arguably, I still think would have a striking advantage. It would be, could DDP mix in some wrestling and then threaten Adesanya elsewhere? I want to see the beef get squashed, Battle of Africa. I'm cool with that as the 300 main event, but we got other options.
Obviously been discussed and has been hinted at by both. And for the longest time, I thought, okay, maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is the one, and I would think is the one that makes the most sense.
It does make the most sense on paper.
Wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being that. But again, also, the clock is ticking. DDP a little bit banged up after the Strickland fight. I don't think if
I think Izzy and him would go for 300, and he'll say that here.
300 was a thing in April. If it was just time off, and I think his team and coaches would have agreed with that. But it's definitely an option. And it has come out today that there's a Q&A scheduled for
this Friday Q&A that he's talking about. I know I paused it a little short, but I had to jump in. That should give us some information. Like maybe they announce the actual UFC 300 main event this Friday at this Q&A. So now as fans all week, we're going to be anticipating Friday is when the 300 main event gets dropped, because As we hit Friday, we will be less than 2 months away from UFC 300. By now, we should have a main event in place. And I think the UFC is scrambling to make something happen. I think there's something big on the table that Helwani's going to get to in a second.
Friday, and the tickets are going on sale in the next few days. They have to come up with something in the next few days. And then we get to the, the sort of left field rabbit in the hat, if you will. I think if the UFC had their way, if they can snap their fingers and make
this is going to be sick. Give it a second.
The biggest fight in their mind happen, and the fight that they've been working on happen, and have their say as to what is the main event for UFC 300, I think that they would make Leon Edwards versus Hamzat Chimaev.
If that fight is set forth for UFC 300 as the main event, banger. No more complaints about the card if this is official this coming Friday. Problem lies, okay, is that Hamzat Chimaev might not be allowed into the United States. Why is that? I think most of you know. Because of his relationship with the Chechen dictator Kadyrov, and the U.S. obviously not in the best of places with the Russian government as of right now, they might be keeping him out of the country. But if somehow, some way, we can set forth that Hamzat Chimaev gets granted a visa to enter the country and fight at UFC 300, him versus Leon is huge. Problem is, can Hamzat Chimaev make 170 pounds? He just fought at 85 against Kamaru Usman. And in all actuality, I don't think making 170 is something that's going to be any bit easy for his body, because it looked like he filled himself up into a 185-pound fighter. He gained a bit of muscle mass. Now, he didn't look huge at 85, but he did look like a real middleweight when he fought against Kamaru Usman, but he still hasn't beaten that middleweight contender. So if we're doing Hamzat Chimaev in another fight, having him take on Leon Edwards would be huge. And he gets to kind of follow what seemed to be the destiny for him, which is that welterweight title shot before heading up to the middleweight division. But then the issue lies on this. If he struggles to make weight, and he does make weight here, does he want to do it again? Is he a one-off champ and then he goes up and challenges for the belt at middleweight? He pulls a Conor McGregor, trying to get that dual champ status. If anybody's getting that type of push, it's going to be Hamzat Chimaev. I'm concerned that that would be a factor that maybe limits the possibility of this. I don't know, though. We do Leon versus Hamzat. Hamzat moves up, challenges for the belt afterwards, then belt is vacated. Maybe you see Shavkat and Belal for it. I have no clue. Obviously, Belal needs a title shot at some point with the damn win streak that he's put together. It just seems like nobody is anticipating him fighting for the belt. Hamzat, I don't care that your last fight was at 85. I don't care that you botched the weight cut last time at 70. I want him versus Leon. But what about at 175? Catch weight? Non-title catch weight? Just a super fight of super fights? Is that what they're proposing? Or are they proposing Hamzat cutting down and challenging for the belt? Things get murky when you start looking at it like that. I know there has been rumors floating through the internet of a 165-pound weight class and a 175-pound weight class. So if they did push welterweight to 175, that would be way better for Hamzat Chimaev. And that weight cut, I think, is possible for him at 75. A lot easier, at least, than him getting to 70. Let's see if Ariel drops any more sick news or anything.
I believe, based on my conversations, that when Dana White is talking about, the hurdles and the issues and the different things at play in terms of making this fight and how troublesome it has been, I believe that's securing.
Holy hell. It's securing a visa. Ariel, you got to talk a little faster for me. I love Ariel. He's an OG. I know he gets a lot of flack from the newer YouTube MMA media. I grew up on Ariel, but damn, bro. He's sometimes in turtle speed as he's talking.
He has, for whatever reason, some issues coming over to the States the last time he fought here. I believe that's been part of the holdup. If they can't, for whatever reason, secure that matchup, I think they would look at a potential Hamzat versus DDP, but I think
Hamzat versus DDP is also a cool option because it's still a title shot. It's still a major fight. Izzy then would get the next shot thereafter, I'd assume, unless they do Izzy Strickland thereafter sometime at like UFC 302 or 303 in a number one contender fight, and they run that back. Maybe. But I like the idea of Hamzat Chimaev in the main event of UFC 300 because Hamzat's allure is massive. The fan base is interested in seeing Hamzat. I want to see Hamzat Chimaev fight. We need him back. When Hamzat first entered, I said, this is the next champ. This is the next star. We have had some breaks along the way just simply because of issues with health and inactivity issues, now potential visa issues. But if all things go just and all things smooth together nicely, and maybe somehow we can get Hamzat in the country, Hamzat Chimaev in the 300 main event against either DDP or even Izzy, and then Leon Edwards is another option. All three of those are sick options for UFC 300 main events that are going to get me excited, that are probably going to get you excited. I like how Helwani dropped some heat, and I'm assuming that these are legit sources and it's not just smoke that he's blowing up everybody's asses with bullshit claims. I'm taking this as absolute. I'm taking this as inside sources at the UFC have whispered these things to him. Maybe a manager, who knows? But somebody has heard something. And there's got to be framework for the claims of these potential fights at UFC 300. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this reaction video. You can tell what I want. It's Hamzat in the main event. Hamzat DDP is cool, but Hamzat Leon is better. Hamzat versus Izzy will satisfy me as well. I'll be happy getting a Hamzat main event. I would say that Israel Adesanya versus DDP would be a dope fight as well. That's not crazy. What if we got dual main events? What if we got Hamzat versus Leon and we got Izzy versus DDP? Now 300 is absolute legendary status. I double thumbs up that. I think you guys will agree. So let me know in the comments what you want as the UFC 300 main event. Do you think Ariel is bullshitting us or you think this is truth? And let me know what you think of the reaction videos like this. I haven't dropped the reaction a little bit, but I said, you know what? Helwani just dropped some banger info. I want to give my take on it. Thank you guys for watching. Smash the likes if you haven't. And if you really enjoy the content and want to see more of it, make sure to subscribe. Thanks, guys. Peace out. See you in the next one.